Welcome to the Mateo Beats Experience. I'm your host, and I want to tell you guys a story. Not a story, but I want to teach you guys something. And teaching is actually part of this video. You see, oftentimes I've been like, I've been in the gym for like 3 years now. I don't really need to learn from this guy. I don't need to learn tips and tricks. I thought about that before, and luckily that hasn't happened often. Because recently I broke out of that thought loop by saying, no, I've only been in the gym for 3 years. This guy's been in the gym for closer to 10. Of course I have much to learn from this man. He's been disciplined in this for 10 years. That's fantastic. That is phenomenal. What do I have to learn? You see, by shutting yourself off from learning, by thinking, I know this, I know that, I've been this, when you hit that ego, and you don't remain humble and you don't think to yourself, okay, if you keep out of a learner's mindset, literally, like that shit they used to tell you in school, you lose the ability to learn from other people. Every man is going to be better than you in one aspect or some way, and that you can learn from him. That's a quote from, I forget who, but I think it's Emerson or Emmett, something with an E. Some famous dude, some famous guy in American history. I don't know the guy, but he was cool. I think it's Ralph Emerson. Every person can be better than you in one way or another, and that learn from them. I could learn from that guy, but I didn't click on the video. It was a YouTube video. It's like 20 minutes, 26 minutes, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna sit through that. Nah, I'm not gonna. So I missed out on the opportunity to learn from somebody who, I don't know for certain, but is probably better than me in some way from the gym, because he's been doing it for 10 years. He likely is. Be humble and learn. Don't miss the opportunity to learn. Because let's be honest, if you really don't want to learn, you don't have to learn. You really don't. I remember my sophomore year. I cheated, and I barely learned anything this sophomore year, especially in geometry. Come the second semester, come the third semester, I didn't pay attention at all. The way the class worked, we walked in, there was a warm-up. It would take us about 10 to 15 minutes he gave us. In reality, he could probably dash it out in 7, to be honest. He could pretty much reduce that to 10 minutes. And when we do that, he would go over it, and then it would tie in. It would either tie into last classes, what we learned from last class, and it'll teach us something new. It'll tie into what we're going to learn today. Guess who didn't do that? Guess who never did the warm-up? Guess who, actually a lot of people in my class didn't even want to fucking learn anyway, but I was also the one. I never did the warm-up. I never paid attention. I was always on my phone, I was on my computer, I was doing different things. And when we actually go over the lesson, I wouldn't do anything. How did I pass? Because I had a buddy who would give me the answers. Alright? I thought to myself, I don't need to learn. And I missed out on the opportunity to learn geometry from a geometry teacher. Now, I don't give a fuck about geometry. I really don't. But what would suck is if that geometry teacher actually had some very, very important information that would change my life in some way. By attributing that mindset to, say, something else, like something important, like meditation, like getting better every day, like getting on your fucking grind, like, damn, like, oh fuck, I missed out on something very important, and you don't want to say that. So what you need to do is never think to yourself, okay, I'm done, I'm finished, I'm this far, I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to learn this, I don't need to learn that, I'm chilling. Now you're gonna miss out on opportunities. Every time you fail at something, you're not gonna learn from it, and then you're gonna fail it the same way. Speaking of failure, it's only a loss. If you fail at something, it's only a loss if you don't learn from it. Otherwise, that's just a lesson. It's a lesson, okay, why did I fail? Why did I not succeed? If you look at it and analyze it, the lesson is in there. The way to succeed is in every failure. There's no success without failure. Let's get that clear. Success is based off the failure and the adaptation from your failures to success. That's what the fuck it is. So don't be afraid to fail. Failing is learning, and if you're afraid to fail, you will be afraid to succeed. In fact, if you're afraid to fail, you will not succeed. You need to fail. It is supposed to happen. You're supposed to learn from it to succeed. Simple. 2 examples from history. Abraham Lincoln is president at this point. He has a lot of power, but there's a lot of stuff to do. He needs to figure out the Civil War. He needs to figure out slavery. He needs to figure out a resolution. between the two sides, the North and the South. And you know what he does? Well, of course he does that. But he doesn't think to himself, okay, I'm president, I'm good. I've worked my ass off through the legal system. I've served as aides for so many people. I've been such a good person. I don't need to learn. No. Not once did he ever write that. In any of his letters, if anybody who ever knew the man, was never written down anywhere. Instead, he had a former slave, Frederick Douglass, visit him at the White House. Because while he existed in the North and he was poor, but he lived a much better life. Frederick Douglass, a famous former slave, because he escaped and wrote a bunch of stuff against slavery. Like, everyone in the U.S. talks about him. Like, we learn about him through school. Frederick Douglass visited him, and he wanted to say from Frederick Douglass, okay, the side of America that I wasn't exposed to. Let me learn from this man. And I like to imagine that part of his experience kind of shaped Abraham Lincoln's experience, like writing the Emancipation Proclamation, all that shit. Here's another example. If you think that just because you're in power doesn't mean you should stop learning. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor. In the peak fucking times to be Roman, he was like the last of the 5 good rulers, whatever the fuck they're called. Rome peaked in size and wealth, I think, during Tiberius, and I think he was 2 emperors after Tiberius, which sounds like a lot. It really wasn't. And Rome was still certainly in its prime, just the end point of its prime. He was an emperor in his prime. Think about the power could have. Emperor. He could do whatever the fuck he wanted. He was an emperor, right? Yes, I do think so. I'm pretty sure. I might need to double extra check that, but yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he might have been appointed, but okay, who gives a fuck? Insane power at the time. He could literally do anything with the fuck he wanted. He could do anything he wanted. He was the law, pretty much. And you know what he wrote to himself? In his journal, Meditations. It's not a book. A lot of people confuse. They think, oh, who the fuck writes like this for a book? It's not a book. It's his fucking journal that survives to the present day and has been translated into so many separate languages. That's what Meditations is. And in his private journal that he kept to himself and never intended to publish, he wrote down the words of another former slave turned philosopher, turned Stoic, Epictetus. I don't know if it was Greek or Roman, but those words came from a Stoic, and he would frequently write the notes from Epictetus himself or from a student of Epictetus multiple times, and he would remind himself of these words as an emperor, words from a former slave. There could be literally no difference in power gaps, and yet he continued to learn. He quickly reminded himself over and over again of his learnings in case he ever forgot, in case he ever short-circuited and forgot about this thing or that thing. You know what? Because you don't fucking stop learning. If you stop learning, you miss out on the opportunity. Now, sometimes it happens over and over again until it sticks in your mind. Sometimes it doesn't, because you only have this day once. You're only going to have, let's say, Wednesday the 9th of April, 2021, once. You might have it again the next year, but it's going to be 2022. Wednesday the 9th of April may just happen once ever in your life. And so it's that kind of way with learning sometimes. Sometimes it only happens once, and you'll never catch it again. So don't. Keep an eye open, remain humble. Always think like, yeah, I can still learn. Okay, I'm successful. I can still work my ass off. I can still wake up early and work. I can still learn from people who are even more successful than me. On not only how to be more successful, but how to just be happier. Even though you could be the most successful person, there could be somebody who found some way to live life extraordinarily that doesn't even need success. Although you need success, you can learn from this guy and be like, okay, I don't need it, and this guy just kind of taught me like, okay, this is a way to live an amazing life. Cool. From every person, he's done something better, or in some aspect is better than you. Learn from him. Learn. The human brain is so fucking good at just chugging yourself full of information. So learn, brother. Learn, motherfucker. I'm in this video here. Remember that those who never do shall never know. Keep this video in mind, not because the actual video, but the content of the video in mind. Keep learning. Don't ever think to yourself, oh, I've done this, I don't need to do that, I don't need to do that. It's ego. Ego is the enemy. Based off the Ryan Holiday book, but it's also a great saying. Great saying. Ego is the enemy. Fuck that. Just keep learning. Don't ever let it pass you by. A man prays for wisdom and is annoyed when God sends problems his way. But that's what he prayed for. Because you can only get wisdom through trial and error and failure from the problems and learning from that. That is wisdom. That is why only old people are wise. Young people can be wise, but it's learned wisdom, not experienced wisdom. Now, they can be wisdom and they can be wise of everything, different things. But usually, a 60-year-old man is going to be a lot wiser than a 20-year-old. It's a time thing. Problems creates wisdom. There's no strength without weakness. There is no wisdom without failure. There is no joy without sadness. Because it's based off the reciprocal, based off the opposite. Only this video here on that note. Remember that those who never do shall never know. Just keep learning, motherfucker. Peace.